Hey, welcome back to Try This from the Washington Post. I'm Cristina Quinn, here with our third class in this 4-part course on how to reclaim your time and attention in an increasingly distracting world. That distracting world is constantly pinging us with content. And as we've been hearing from the beginning of this course, and you probably already knew before, our brains are not equipped to handle it. In this episode, we're going to explore some other ways to reset the reward pathways in our brains. We heard addiction specialist Anna Lemke spell out a dopamine fast. But she also told me that a first step is creating boundaries. It's called self-binding, setting things up so you don't turn to your devices as easily. One of my colleagues has done a lot of reporting on this and experiments in his own life.
Hi, I'm Geoff Fowler. I'm tech columnist here at the Washington Post.
Hi, Geoffrey.
Hello. Let me turn on focus mode so that nobody will disturb us during our conversation.
I see what you did there. So, Geoff, I'm really glad we're talking here because we need your help. We're all jacked up on dopamine, and I'm wondering how you could help us.
The good news is there are a lot of ideas out there about things you can do that will help. I have tried them all, and I have some experience from myself, from my colleagues here at the Post on our help desk team, and also from readers of the Washington Post. And I can sort of help you sort through which things might work and which things are probably a waste of your time. And I'm happy to share that knowledge.
Well, let's start with what worked for you, because you are always plugged in.
Yeah, I got 120 connected gadgets on my home Wi-Fi network.
Wow, show off.
I'm proud of it. Yeah, thank you. I sort of think about this question across 3 different levels. I am the father to 2 young kids. I've got a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old.
So this idea of boundaries, it's how Geoff navigates a lot in his life.
You know, with good boundaries come healthy relationships and interactions. And we need boundaries on our phones, just like a 3-year-old needs boundaries.
Right.
And the boundaries that I've put on my phone kind of come in 3 levels. There are some technical boundaries, like things you can adjust about the phone, the settings, you name it, that put it in its place. There are also physical boundaries, like choices I make about where to keep the phone at certain times that make a difference. And then there are social boundaries. So it's a combination of all 3 of those things that's really made the difference for me.
Okay, let's dig into the technical boundaries. One way to do that is to take advantage of the data mining features that live in your phone and find out how you spend your time online. You can do this on an iPhone and an Android by going into your phone's settings and searching for screen time. From there, you can see all your app and website activity, down to the minute. If you have an iPhone, it will even tell you how many times you pick up your phone in a day. These figures might be alarming and even a little embarrassing.
And as part of that, you can also then individually say, okay, certain apps or certain kinds of apps, you will only spend, 30 minutes on or 45 minutes or whatnot. So you can go in and you can set up all of this. And if that works for you, great.
Now, it might not work for you. If that's the case, perfectly understandable, and you're not alone.
There were some researchers at Duke and a couple other places that did a study, and they found that using those time limits actually made people spend more time on these apps, not less.
So how did it make them spend more time?
So there's 2 problems with it. One is it's super easy to just press ignore, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you need to be very self-possessed to not press that ignore button. And our brains are like that of a 3-year-old, right? And so this boundary is not going to work if that's you. The other problem with it that the Duke researchers found is that even if you pay attention to the time limits, you once you set that limit, you tend to think of it like you can use all of that time. So if you set 45 minutes and you're like, okay, I really shouldn't be more than 45 minutes, your brain now thinks, oh, I have 45 minutes to spend. I can do it right up to 44 minutes and 59 seconds, and I'm fine. Whereas
it's like a speed limit.
Yeah, it becomes a speed limit. It becomes a max rather than like a suggestion. What could the time limits be useful for, or the screen time measurements? You can measure yourself. You can get a sense of, okay, where am I at? And also, if you're going through this process with other members of your family, which I highly recommend, like any other behavioral change, it's good to have a buddy.
Yep.
It's good to have someone to check in with, maybe to compete with a little bit.
Ooh.
You should look at those reports once a week and see, like, okay, is this going down? How does this make me feel? So it can be kind of a useful self-diagnostic unless your experience of doing it just makes you feel guilty. That shouldn't be the point of this either.
That's not the goal.
That's not
right.
the goal.
Right.
Self-shame is not the goal. The goal is making positive change.
More on how to make that positive change after the break. All right, we've talked about setting time limits on our phones. Here's another technical boundary Jeff broke down for me. Be super selective about your notifications. If you haven't already done this, go to settings and scroll down to notifications. And if you scroll down a little bit more, you're going to see every app that's on your phone. From there, you can decide which ones are allowed to push up notifications. And if you choose to keep some notifications on, you can tailor them to appear a certain way. But Jeff says turning them off completely is the way to go.
Just make it as boring as possible. So I did this, and you know what? I did it on my phone, then I did it on my Apple Watch, which is an even worse place to get notifications because it's literally shaking you in the middle of the day, saying, look at me, look at me. Turn off as many of these as you absolutely can, and you will be so much happier.
Okay, great advice. What if I've already done that? Because I have already done that. And yet, my phone told me that I picked up my phone 132 times the other day. That to me sounds excessive.
I mean, that is a lot of times.
See, the fact that you say so makes me feel like, oh no, okay, it's true. That is a lot of times.
Cristina, this is a judgment-free zone. We are here to help each other.
Okay.
But you saying that reminds me, can I just tell you of a quick little story of something that I once did? So as an experiment, I went to a costume store, which we have a lot of in San Francisco, and I rented a Chewbacca costume.
Love it.
Like the Star Wars character. And I put it on a colleague. And then we went to a subway exit in San Francisco in the morning during rush hour. And my colleague stood there as Chewbacca and waved at people while they were coming out of the subway. And I sat there and I watched to see how many of them looked up from their phones enough to see if they could identify Chewbacca. And then I would go up to them and say, excuse me, did you see Chewbacca? And most of them did not. That is how deeply absorbed into these devices we are.
Oh my goodness.
This was like almost 10 years ago, so I'm sure it would be much worse today. But goodness. I just share that story just to say, like, you're not alone in picking up your phone that many times and being totally engrossed in them and suffering the consequences of it, which could include missing out on fun things or could also include not giving your mind the time it needs to just breathe and think.
Right.
Yeah. 2 more suggestions for you that are technical in nature. One is you're also in charge of what your app screens look like on your phone, what your home screen looks like, what the next screen looks like, what the screen after that looks like. You can design those in ways that when you reflexively pick up your phone, unlock it, and you look there, it's not so interesting. Like, what do you put on that front page? Do you put, Instagram and Facebook and their Candy Crush app? Sorry, that was a very dated reference, but some people still Candy Crush. Your Sudoku, God, that was even more dated. Whatever the thing that always gets you. No, you don't put those things there. Put boring things on the home screen. Also,
my home screen is the front page, and it's a good one.
No.
I've got all of my news apps and podcasts and music.
Nope.
Slack.
Nope.
What?
Nope.
Okay.
You can adjust those screens, and you can make multiple ones. Put them in places where they're organized so you don't get distracted by other things when you go in to do something legit on your phone. So put all your work things on one page together so that when you have to do work things, you do work things. But also, when you don't need to be doing work things, you're not looking there, right? You're not being like, oh, God, I got 17 Slacks.
Yeah.
So you can put that away. Or like I have all my banking things on one page. I have all my smart home things on one page. So you can control that experience. So that's one recommendation. One step further you could go on this line is like, just delete the apps that don't really fulfill you. So I deleted Facebook from my phone. It was just like, I don't need this anymore. Every once in a while I'll go check in on the web, but like, I don't need this on my phone. Or you can even do a half step into that. You can not delete, but you can just remove it, remove the icon.
That's what I did. And it did make a difference.
And then if you want to get to it, you just pull down to search, and then you can still pull up the app if you really need it.
Right.
So, that's another way to go.
Well, to your point, though, I think removing it from the home screen has taught me that I really don't need it that much. It just became a mindless thing to click on.
You should be in charge of what you spend your time looking at and what distracts you during the day. Don't let the makers of your phone or the apps that you put on your phone decide what you get to spend your attention on, because they are commercial enterprises and they have every incentive to try to constantly get your attention, where that's not necessarily what's best for you.
If you're not ready to remove anything from your home screen, you can try this: resetting the algorithm. There are a number of ways to do it in TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And it all starts with going into that app's content preferences.
So basically, this is the software that has been trained on every single thing you do in the app to try to like capture your attention and keep you scrolling.
Right.
So they know that like if you scroll more slowly over videos that feature certain actors or whoever, that they're going to show you more of those people.
Right.
You can go in and say, forget all that stuff. Let's start all over again.
You can do a full reset so that the videos that appear in your feed are not tailored to what that app thinks you want more of. In Instagram, for example, here's what you do. Go into Settings, click on Content Preferences, and at the bottom of the menu, you can click on Reset Suggested Content. But to be clear, this means you won't see certain videos you've become attached to, like videos of Moo Dang, that adorable pygmy hippo.
The result is that your Instagram or your TikTok will be less interesting. But if that's your goal, to be less interested in Instagram or TikTok, then I recommend pressing it. I did it for myself. It also ended up kind of getting rid of some weird rabbit holes that I felt like Instagram had taken me down.
Instagram introduced me to the whole world of really abstract manicures that are like living art installations on people's nails. There was one in particular where this woman basically turned all of her nails, or whoever's nails, into like a tea party. And like each nail had basically its own little teacup, and then you could pour the tea into cups. It was insane because it's like, well, what do you do with this? This is art. And it was fascinating, but now like this is what Instagram thinks I want to see all the time. And in a way I kind of do, because I'm like, what will they do next?
Christina, this is amazing, but snap out of it.
It's wild. The stuff that they do out there. It's also like, it's just weird.
So my version of the nail art is, so I'm a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. And so I started following some of the queens who I enjoyed from the show. And then Instagram decided that I just wanted drag queens.
Right. Yeah. That's it. That's all you get.
And so I'm just like, what is up with this feed? Like, it's like there are other things going on in the world.
That's it for now for our third class. For more advice on how to break away from your phone and reconnect with all the other things going on in the world, Jeff will be back in our next class. We'll save the recap of all of his wise advice for then, after we hear about how to put some physical and social boundaries around your tech time. You can hear that episode next week on Tuesday, April 8th, or you can listen to it right now and ad-free with a subscription to The Post. If you already have one, great. Find the Washington Post channel in Apple Podcasts and connect your subscription there. If you don't yet have one, you can subscribe to the Washington Post through the link in our show notes. All right, meet me in class 4.